Here we go. Sat Purkh, welcome to the Mantradad podcast.
Thanks, Adam. It's great to be with you.
Awesome. I'm so happy that we can connect via Zoom. You're in New Hampshire. I'm in Kauai. There's so much happening in the world. This is a burgeoning time for consciousness. It's a time where we can, feel part of something greater than ourselves, to connect with each other through sound, through vibration, through science of yoga. What's going on in your world now, and bring me up to speed. It's been about 5 years since we've connected.
Yeah. Well, life moves forward, and we met in Bali, which was such a profound experience. And I have still several students like yourself that stay in touch and that are connected from that time. Um, our community has gone through what many spiritual communities have gone through, where the spiritual leader has come into question for behaviors that were not ethical. And a lot of that has led me to make new choices and new directions. And we moved to New Hampshire mainly because we had friends from our Dharma community here. That's my doggy. From our Dharma community here. And we love the water and the rivers. And I'm writing a lot of poetry now. And yeah, that's about
Nice.
it.
Well, sounds like you're enjoying life. I'm sure it was a big change for you coming from Espanola, New Mexico. The,
Yeah.
the heart of the Sikh community, right? And where Yogi Bhajan kind of really established himself, and then things happened as you mentioned. Where the patriarch, I guess, of the Kundalini community, made some choices, like as you mentioned, that were unethical, and so there's been a divergent in the world of that. So you're redefining yourself and finding a space of joy and community, right? And um, tell me what your spiritual practices are these days.
Well, we still do a lot of work with the City Guru Granth Sahib, the Shabad Guru from Sikh Dharma. So recently this spring we did every night a 40-day practice with one of the podis of Japji, one of the steps. And so that was really powerful practice. We still sing shabads for Gurdwara once a month at a nearby ashram outside of Boston. And yeah, just still love the sound current, still love mantra and chanting. And so just doing deeper dives into the more sophisticated sounds of Shabad Guru over just simple mantras. Although some of the simple ones are just as beautiful.
Nice. And you are a recording artist. You've released
Mhm.
how many albums now?
I think it's 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so a lot of these are chants from the Gurdwara.
Yeah, from well, from the Kundalini tradition primarily, and then lots of shabads. I have recorded many shabads over the years, and then when I got married, my husband started challenging me to also do covers of more popular songs to kind of integrate contemporary music with what I was doing in mantra. So we've done a few recordings like that as well. Yeah.
Well, I love your music. I've chanted to your music many, many times. One of my favorites is Ekonkar Sadguru Prasad. Another one of my favorites is the Mul Mantra. So, is that something you could play for me or for us
Yeah.
to share your gift of kirtan music?
So this Mul Mantra is it's the first opening lines of Guru Nanak's Japji, the Song of the Soul. and it's considered the root. Mul means root, right? Like mul band. So root mantra, root of what? Root of our identity as human beings, light of the mind, right? The capacity to be conscious. So it just describes our nature in one with the nature of whatever you consider God. Karta Purkh Nirvan Nirvana Murti Juni Sabam Guru Prasad Japa Sach Jugad Sach Happy Sach Nanak Hosi Be Sach Ekam Satnam Karta Purkh Nirvan Nirvana Murti Juni Sabam Guru Prasad Japa Sach Jugad Sach Happy Sach Nanak Hosi Be Sach.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I love listening to your sound, and I'm really happy that I get to listen to this over and over again. You know, beautiful. Thank you so much. So, would you normally chant the whole japji with your harmonium, or would you just chant it by yourself without the sound?
Yeah, typically Japji and most of the Banis in the Sikh tradition are considered recitations, so they're not typically set to music. Japji in particular is not tied to a particular rag like the rest of the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib is. You can do it musically though. There are people who chant the whole thing. There's a beautiful recording from Madhamandir Singh that's quite nice. So.
Have you ever thought about recording your own japji with
I
music?
have just a recitation that's available on SoundCloud, but I've never done it as a full recording produced because my pronunciation isn't perfect. So
Yeah, that's a lot to remember. And I mean, how would you? I mean, do you have japji memorized at this point?
I don't, and it's actually traditionally you're not supposed to memorize it. Part of the kind of humility in approaching the guru is that you use the Gurbani, the letters as a kind of darshan. So part of it is just being humble enough to always be in relationship to the darshan of the letters. That said, it's a beautiful practice to memorize it. Guru Gobind Singh memorized the entire Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib and recited it when it was lost in a war. So of course, memorization is always a wonderful practice, but it's also encouraged to always just look at it. My husband has it memorized.
Wow.
I always look at it.
Oof, that is advanced right there. Wow.
You want to come sit down?
Oh, I would love that. Come on in.
Sure.
Because he wants us to do one more piece of music.
Okay.
You might just turn the camera a little bit.
Sure.
Or sit
Hi.
close to me. This is my husband, Abey Raj.
I heard her singing, so I came downstairs from my office.
Abey Raj, welcome to the podcast. This is the Mantradad podcast, so perfect. You are a mantra man, that's for sure. You memorize Japji. That's some serious
Well,
devotion right there.
I know we do a tantric style mostly. I'd say 99% of the time, which means she says a line, she recites a line, then I recite the next line, then we go back and forth through the whole. So I know half the lines because
So you
we
never
do it
change
together.
parts. You never change parts, huh?
No, we don't, because
Wow.
it's a tradition. One side is the masculine, one's the feminine, and I do know a lot of her lines just because I've heard them so many times, and I get maybe halfway through. But we get about the second half, and then I start losing her lines. But it is an interesting thing where she will say a line, and without even it's the context of her previous line that lets me do the next line. Like I don't know necessarily what the next line, the fifth line away from what I'm doing is going to be. I just tag on to the end of her last line, and then that gives me the next line. I don't even know how that happens. It's just like a magic.
Well, I love that. That's like the key to memorization, right? Is you try to remember the thing right before. So it's happened so many times with you guys that you can
Yeah,
pair up naturally. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really.
Wow. Can I see an example of what that might look like? I'm peeking into your morning practice.
So the first pori of Japji starts with Soche Sochino Je Sochi Nakavar
Chupe chumanove jele lavletar.
Bokya Bokana Utari Je Banna Poriapar
Sia sian palakoe takna chale now.
Give Sachiara Hoye Give Kurde Tutekpa
Hukum rajai chana nanak likiye now.
Hukami Hoven Akar Hukamanakaya Jai.
Hukum yobenji hukum le variaye.
Like that, on and on.
Wow. So about 20, 30 minutes, huh? Right? About
Yeah.
chanting like that?
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
22 minutes at our speed.
Yeah, and just another caveat is my pronunciation isn't 100% either. I know I'm only going by sound. I'm not going by, being able to read Gurmukhi. I'm just going off of what I've heard before. And I think over time it can degrade a little bit. Like I'll have some way of pronouncing something and it might not be 100% right. And then I might even start to slide off of what 100% right was even more and more as I keep practicing. So it would do me good to, listen to like a really good pronouncer and kind of get caught back up.
It's
So-
interesting because that's the nuance of sound, right? Is that traditionally it was always learned orally, and yet an oral is often said to be more precise than written, and yet you also still have to be super attuned to hear the subtleties in the Gurbani just by ear only. And just as an American ear, we can't always hear it.
Yeah, and then people will like the word how Mumbai used to be called Bombay, at the name of the city in India. And I think that's because when they originally the English people who originally heard someone say, an Indian person say Mumbai, they thought they were saying Bombay because their ears are not as tuned to the sounds, and they hear Mumbai, and but yeah, he said Bombay, and that became the name of the city. So I think
Oh,
it's similar. Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, there's a lot going on there with this sound being like a really specific thing, and being able to replicate it accurately is a little bit of it's a little bit difficult to nail it down.
Well, it sounds like you guys are definitely at an advanced stage of nailing it down. So, congratulations to
Yeah, for
you for
that.
all your hard work and dedication and focus. I'm wondering what happens inside of you guys when you're chanting, or what's the purpose in your mind to really to master this or to be on the path of mastering this, and like what's happening for you?
I mean, when I teach this topic, always open with the lines that you are hardwired for joy, right? So the human body, as a glandular nervous system complex, is meant to experience ecstasy, right? That's why we have orgasm. That's why we have awe. So the mind, the hormonal process of the mind, which often is called the ecstatic experience, it's a hormonal expression. And mantra is, for me, one of the quickest, purest routes to awakening that experience of ecstasy and awe. And just by moving my tongue and singing and breath and all the things that are combined, right? And then the other piece I think that's profound for me is that I'm not a good meditator. I never have been. Um, and so practicing mantra is a way for me to reach a kind of silence that I can't reach just by sitting quietly. So for me, there's silence in the sound and there's sound in the silence.
Hmm.
It's both and.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it really gives your mind something to do, right? So that you're focused, and it's. I feel like it's more productive in a way than just meditation alone. I know that sounds weird to think of meditation as productive, but I feel like it's working more, versus just being empty or being silent or trying to think of nothing. This is actually a lot more fun to actually sing, and you're right, it does feel good to sing and to experience joy and to that energy moving up the currents and into the cells and into the air around you. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
is a physical thing, sound, right? Vibration and waves, and this can be measured, and so it's real. And by chanting, it's actually infusing ourselves with like pure vibes, right? I mean, higher vibrations, wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually an actual sound energetic impulse that's occurring, and I think when it gets internalized, at least for me, and there's magic in it in that I don't know how it works exactly, but there's a release that happens and a kind of giving away. And if I stay with my attention focused at my spiritual eye as I chant, which I most often do, I close my eyes and focus at my spiritual eye, it becomes just incredibly ecstatic. Just incredibly. I tell people it's better than sex. Kind of good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there has to
Yeah.
be something better than sex, and you know, this is it.
Right on. It
Well,
is.
and it's really a beginner's practice, like he's actually quite accomplished meditator. And for him, silent meditation is not a challenge at all, but it's because he's been doing it for 20 years at this point, or 18 or something. And so for me, the silence that I experience in my mind when I'm chanting is really the sweet spot for me. I can't just sit and be still very easily. So it is a beginner's practice for sure.
Hmm. Beautiful. I mean, I had a flotation tank center in the Bay Area with Denise, and that was really the only place where I felt that I could, relax enough, relax the body enough, and disengage the senses so that there is some, some silence, finally some space where we can just kind of explore, and we won't have to be so dedicated to like the day to day, or this body is so hard to just like calm down. And but maybe for Abey Raj, you can give us some tips on how to calm down the body and thus the mind.
Well, I would just refer to I learned the technique of Yogananda's Kriya Yoga, which is, he used the word Kriya, but it's Kabbalah Kriya would be the technical name of it, and it's the calming Kriya. And there's a whole mantra and breath pattern and whatnot with it, and you're supposed to be initiated in it, which I was, and so I can't just do it here, but those things to me, it didn't come easy. I think there was like 6 months or so before I started to actually feel what I thought was, something akin to meditation here. Being in a state where, it's super enjoyable, and then all of a sudden, you don't even remember you're in that state, or time just goes by, and you can be lost in it for quite an extended period of time. A very transcendental kind of experience. And so it took some time, because I think what it is, and I think it varies from person to person, there's like a bunch of samskara, a bunch of cloudiness, a bunch of chitta, and basically patterns of energetic forms that we had to eventually break through using these meditation techniques. And once we do break through and kind of can release, it's much like having scar tissue in an injury, where it takes like a lot of massage or a lot of stretching to get it back to where it should be fluid and normal. I do think it's a birthright. I do think that being in this state of deep meditation is a birthright of human beings, that it's something to try to reclaim. And yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, in today's, science world, there's a lot of inputs that make relaxation challenging for some people over other people. And so if you are out there listening and you're challenged to relax, like for me, Shavasana was always the hardest pose, because I couldn't relax. I would feel myself lifted up off the floor, and that's a trauma response. And so your nervous system, your alert system is always on high for some people. And so there's definitely pathways to learning to relax, but there's also one of the gifts of bhakti as a yoga practice, chanting as a yoga practice, is that particular obstacle is removed. If it's hard for you to relax, you're not having to. You can just sing and breathe and move your navel point, and have that union experience that people are looking for, without having to, in that particular moment anyway, master this other thing that for people who are in trauma states, very challenging.
Beautifully well put. Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Abey Raj, it looks like you want to sing some songs.
Well, she said something about singing, and so I was trying to get tuned up, but I don't want to. Yeah, I would love to sing songs.
Please, I would love that as well.
What do you want to sing, sweetie? Just to make sure it's known, Gwir here is the real musician in the household. I'm just following along, trying to keep up. So I do what I can, and but she's the one with the actual musical talent and genius, composing and whatnot.
Well, one of the things that Adam, you and I had talked about in just kind of prepping for the show was talking about Shabdaguru in context of male consciousness and elevating men's consciousness to to the level where they can really be radiant, serviceful, peaceful warriors, right? Like there's ways that men can channel their energy to actually benefit everyone around them instead of kind of being an obstacle. And so one of the shabas that we've done over the years that helps men come into alignment with their highest consciousness is called Bandha Jamia, and it's by Guru Nanak. So Guru Nanak was the first Sikh Guru, and he basically was like one of the first feminists within a spiritual tradition, where he really elevated the status of women at a time when the caste system was very still intractable, and women were essentially kept inside the home and didn't have their own presence. And so he really broke that mold, and this is one of the first things he wrote.
Let me make sure I'm in tune.
You're turning the wrong knob.
Okay, it'll be good now.
Bandha Jamia, 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 Bandha And it's said that this particular sound current can heal men from some of their phobias around mothers and power and all those dynamics that some men feel challenged by. So
That is something a lot of men feel challenged by. That's for sure. Wow. Yeah, it's always great to have some beautiful mantras that can work on those kinds of situations. You wouldn't think that that would be something that, a song might heal or a mantra, but sounds like that is exactly what's happening there.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how powerful it really is. Like it does take a practice. It does take discipline. Like in terms of putting your reps in. And I've just noticed with any number of these mantras, if you put the time in and really dedicate to it and really embody it as best you can, you will notice some changes over time. They will happen, and it's fairly rapid compared to, I don't know, other things. I mean, if someone's got a issue with a mother phobia, that's a huge thing, right? And I bet if you practice this for 40 days, you'll see significant changes.
yeah, and I think it's that combination of the tongue and the breath and the navel point and the focus concentration and the ecstasy, all of that combined together, it just accelerates the inner progress. What were you going to say, Adam?
Well, I was just gonna say, I love how that you can practice both together, doing the same thing and amplifying it and making it more powerful. And I mean, the energy that was coming from you through the computer was really powerful. I'm still feeling like those those vibes are kind of like dished out there. So amazing. Yeah, Denise and I have been practicing music together, and it's been really fun. You're learning the ukulele, and
Right on.
yeah, and also coming up with our own chants. We have 10 mantras that we've been working on and recording through Logic Pro, and we have a great musician guitarist that's been helping us do the song arrangement. So it's actually happening. So like our first album, we're calling ourselves the Tejas.
Nice, the lights.
The lights, and she has a beautiful voice, and
Very
I'm
much,
learning
yeah.
about my voice and practicing. I'm wondering if you guys maybe have some tips on how to, I don't know, sing better on pitch, or I know that may be more of a physical thing in my vocal cords, or how would you what advice would you give to a guy like me?
Well, I think one of the things that's most powerful about practicing with Abey Raj, because my voice has always been this way. This is the voice I was born with, and it's gotten better over the years, maybe, or richer, but it's essentially the voice I was given. And his voice is more of a picture of pure devotion. He has a beautiful voice, but if you ask him to sing on pitch, it's not necessarily always going to be there. But so what's been interesting about our dynamic together is that I've really come to recognize that the devotion, especially in a live performance, translates more than being on pitch would be, right? So it doesn't mean that he's not on pitch the majority of the time, he is. But those times that maybe in the past I would have been like, that's not right, correct, I've softened around because the correctness is not as important as the devotion. And so for someone who's working on their voice, the number one key is listening. Listen to your own sound with both ears. Listen to the person you're singing with, namely Denise, right? And try to make your sound one sound and merge. And so this is the real beauty of practicing with your life partner, is that you're already working on so many different levels to merge, right? You have children, you share a home, you share food, you share enthusiasms and lifestyle. And so sharing a voice is like this richer attunement, and you really have to attune to each other. And so listening is the number one key. The second key is really stay within yourself, your voice. Like, don't listen to someone else sing and say, I want to sound like them. No. The sweetest sound to your soul is your voice. And it can only be your voice if you're being really authentic and not trying to sound like someone else. So, listening, sound like you, and practice, just like use some sort of pitch and match the pitch. And if you're unsure, have someone who knows pitch let you know, are you high, low? And then there's other techniques as far as singing in different parts of the face, different parts of the body, really, so that you embody the sound and you can almost feel when you're not on pitch more than hear it.
It's funny she said those three things, because those are the exact three things I was gonna mention. One was like, there's something that happened early on when we started singing together, in that I would sing along with her, and then I found, I don't do as well if I try to follow her melody exactly. I do better if I just find the sound that merges with hers or complements, and it's not like a technical thing, because I don't have any technical training. It just was what sounded good to me. And I remember hearing a guy, after hearing us at a concert, say, oh, they do a lot of counterpoint in their melody. So like her melody be going like this, and mine will be just doing the opposite. But they still sound good together. And I'm not saying that you should just always do counterpoint. I'm saying that listen to your partner and listen to what you sound like with them, and try to make a sound that you like together. And then the practice part to me is like I don't think I have a good voice necessarily, but I think it's gotten better over time. And what I have found is, like, I'll sing in the car, I'll sing when I'm doing dishes, I'll sing when I'm watering the garden, I'll sing.
He sings when he's working. He's upstairs with his headphones on and he's
Singing
chanting
all
away.
the time. And I think there's something that actually happens to my vocal cord. They got
Stronger.
They got stronger, and there was a richness that started to develop over time because of that. And I think maybe it's a sign of something getting worn down, but to me it sounded better.
No, it's your timbre.
Yeah.
Your voice becomes richer, more complex the
Right.
more that you practice.
Yeah. So just all the times, just do it all the time. I can't remember the third thing you were talking about, but
Listening.
Listening was the first. Yeah. That's, trying to make a sound.
Sing your own sound. Don't try to sound like someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So those two together to me were kind of the key parts.
Well, thank you for those tips. Those are really helpful. I need to work on all three of those for sure.
All the time, Adam. Sing all the time.
Sing all the time. Yeah, sometimes I get in trouble for that. Abey Raj.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. That's their problem.
And it's funny. I get a little bit in trouble in the listening part as well, because I'm recording the songs, and then I put them on my phone so I can hear them and be like, kind of say, okay, where should we change this or upgrade this? Because this is just a first draft of this song. It's I was wondering about your process as well. Down the road, another question, but yeah. So I'm listening to the songs over and over and over again, and Denise is like, I can't even listen to it twice without being like, because it's not complete and perfect, as a song really well can be. And it's just like, so I have to like find headphones or just listen to it on my own. That's probably the best case scenario. But yeah, listening to your stuff. Like, do you enjoy listening to your own music as well once it's recorded? No.
No, because like you're learning engineering your own music, that by the time you've completed an album, you've listened to it so many times that you're just like, okay, cooked. I mean, in the next year or two, I can listen to it a while later, but not immediately. He likes to listen to my music. I'm surprised a lot. But by the time I get the album out, I'm listened out. And I don't even listen to it nearly as much as my engineer does. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So is
So
it?
it shows you got good patience if you're willing to keep listening to it over and over again.
Well, I find that
That's the temperament of an
it's like
engineer.
one of the only reasons why I would make it in general is for me to enjoy it. I feel like, I'm not like, and it's certainly if other people aren't enjoying it, that's much worse too. If I hate it and they hate it, then maybe I shouldn't be making music. There's got to be at least one party that likes what's happening, right?
Yeah. Although I will say from my own experience, and maybe this is just me, but I think it's kind of the natural arc of any artist on anything that you're working in, whatever the medium, is that the closer you get to the end, there is a stage where you hate it. And at that stage, you have to trust all the decisions you've made up to that point and know that they were made correctly at the time and just wait through it because it's like this moment of self-doubt and duality. And if you get through it and you push through some of those final decisions, I end up really loving it again. But there's always this little stage right before we're almost finished, right?
Are you familiar with the idea of Shaktipad?
Yes, I learned about that in Bali with you guys.
Yeah. So Shaktipad is kind of what I think of she's describing is her Shaktipad with each song. She kind of gets this point where like, oh, she hates it. She doesn't want to hear it once more time. Anything you turn it on, she's like, oh, I hate it. And you got to push through that. And then once you get on the other side of it, it's fine.
Yeah, every project has that stage.
Yeah.
I wanted to say one other thing about just producing sound is since you're kind of mantra is the main theme and we sang something that was quite complex and it doesn't have to be that complex for it to be effective. And one of the things that's been interesting to me is as a mantra teacher for years, we would sort of rotely say, your word is your world and that you are shaping your world with every sound you make, right? Because the sound is vibration and vibration makes a shape and science is showing us this. You can see it with sand plates and all these different things, right? So, but what's fascinating for me is that 20 years in, like a couple years ago, I'd been practicing solidly for 20 years at that point, I finally started to actually experience in my own practice the shape of the sound coming out of my mouth. And it was like this thing that had been promised for so long and that I talked about intellectually for so long, finally had the experience of it. And it was with these very simple sounds, like odd, such, jugad, such, just saying that over and over again and really feeling the shape come out of my mouth. And so I would just say that mantra is an affirmation practice. Any mantra you're doing is almost always some sort of affirmation, and it literally is shaping your world. It's shaping your thoughts. It's shaping your relationships, and it doesn't mean I still don't have my itty bitty shitty committee, and it doesn't mean I still don't like to say fuck a little bit too often for my husband's taste, but it does mean that the more that you're practicing, the more weight is given to that affirmative kind of frequency and shaping your world. And if you ever get that moment where you feel it, the shape coming out of your mouth, that's a pretty magical moment. So
Well, we'll
do
a podcast in 20 years, and I'll be able to tell you that. That's if I practice. That's if I practice that at all. Yes, and it is such a beautiful, when you describe it that way, and that's one of the reasons I started this podcast and want to continue is to really, I guess, educate and inspire and learn for my own self the power of sound and how it does shape your reality and create your reality and improve your reality. And it's something that is very sovereign and joyful thing to do, and it doesn't cost anything really, and so that's what there's so many benefits of doing it, and as a new learner on the path, it is so exciting to see how it actually works. And I'm wondering if you guys ever do the har mantra, had had had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had,
Mm-hmm.
had,
I
had,
That's the one
had.
I've really probably done the most of with the Kundalini yoga
Yeah.
tradition, is because I feel like it really works, and when more prosperity flows to my life and new opportunities, and I get really excited about that, and I go, okay, well, this is actually working if I stay dedicated, and I'm growing in the practice and the pronunciation, even it's simple, but man, I feel so euphoric after I do that practice.
Yeah. And it's a powerful one to work on the navel and tongue moving together. It's one of the perfect ones because it's got that HUD, HUD. You're needing to use the navel point and the tip of the tongue is activated. And so it helps you work on your precision, your projection, all those qualities that mantras bring.
Can we talk a little bit about the tongue placement on the roof of the mouth and why that's important?
Well, you know, the palate of the mouth relates to the pituitary gland, and that's your gland that's, you know, mastering, navigating your entire endocrine system. So, having that HUD just above the teeth on the hard palate versus maybe a sound like heart where it's further back. Um, there's different R's, there's different sounds that are called palatal sounds versus dental sounds versus labial sounds. And all languages have those unique characteristics of using the full mouth. But Gurbani uses it in a really profound way with retroflex kinds of sounds. And so that HUD, it's just a really perfect place. Like we've done this before where you rub your tongue on the roof of the mouth, right? It's one of the few places you can tickle yourself. So it's just very sensitized, right? And so if you synchronize the navel point and the tip of the tongue hitting that spot, it's very powerful.
So it triggers a pleasure senses, and so that's like the Hare
Yeah.
Krishnas. That's why they're so happy, right? I mean, there's a Hara Krishna. So many
Yeah. Well, it's
so many
opening the heart.
repetitions.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Wow. Okay. I wanted to ask you guys. Do you practice physical yoga?
Not as much anymore.
Hardly any. I do like a little, some morning stretches is about it. Yeah.
Swimming, gardening.
Nice. And
I,
and you guys are still leading sadhana practices in the morning, right? Sometimes.
We through the whole pandemic we led once a week on Sundays on Facebook, and then when summertime rolled around, I just felt like it was time to kind of let it go. But it was fun because a friend from Maine challenged us, to drop the Aquarian sadhana, which was the practice that had been given to us for 25 years or so. Our community's been doing that same practice, and he challenged me to just explore other combinations of sounds for the early morning practice. So we were having a lot of fun just trying different mantras. And so for me, I really landed on the Mul Mantra, Hummy Hum Brum Hum for the heart center, Har Har Mukande for the third eye center. And so different mantras just landed in different places, and it felt really good to play around with it. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you guys want to do a little harring with me?
We have a musical version we can play
Oh,
for you.
yes.
Want to with that?
Perfect. That would be awesome. And before we get started, is just quickly, what's happening with the mudra as well? Is it the Jupiter and the Moon Center or Moon Mounts? What's that?
So this is your moon mound here on the pinky side of the hand. So you're striking there, and then you're striking the four fingers with the right thumb underneath. And this is your Jupiter finger. Jupiter is all about expansion, and Moon is about, right, the pull of gravity and waxing and waning. And so it's about being in that flow. You know, prosperity is going to come and go, but you've always got this creative thing in the center of your hands.
Cool. And before we start, I noticed that the sound was a little, I don't know how you would say, like, it was almost too loud. I'm wondering if maybe there's different settings that we could.
Yeah, we can turn down the gain on our mic and maybe even push the mic back a little bit.
Okay.
It was sitting right between us, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
That might help.
How's that sound?
It's much better. I think even a little bit further with the mic, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
GDF. Oh, har du han?
All right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. I get to practice that some more with your music now.
Go create that prosperity for you and you littles.
Absolutely. Oh man. So let's finish with a few more questions about just how do we really entertain and live as the divine masculine in your guys' opinion? Like, how can we act from that space?
Worship the woman. That's the quickest, that's the shortest route. Just
Yes.
worship the woman.
So the more you love the ladies and the women in your life, your own mother, the universal mother, the earth mother, the way that you mirror that love that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
It's the shortcut.
I think that's definitely one of the major aspects. And there's other aspects, you know, there's times in our going through life together where things get really challenging. And I see, and this is going to sound maybe a little bit old school, traditional, or whatever, but there's times when I feel like it's my job to be steady and strong. Like we're going through we lived in New Mexico, and we're gonna trying to figure out whether we're gonna leave the community there or not, and and we ended up moving here to New Hampshire. Or Gwir's going through some challenges in her professional life, and I kind of feel like my job is to stay really steady and strong and supportive. In that, it's like she's the vine and I'm the trellis, and I need to stay grounded and strong and support so she can climb up it, and be the vine, or whatever analogy you want to use. But one of those aspects to me is being very reliable, and having a lot of integrity, and living is living by your word. When you say when you promise to do something, you do it, and things like that. So to me, that's one of the key aspects. And then worshiping the woman,
And not the woman, the person, but like if you really,
feminine
as a
energy.
man, connect to worshiping the divine feminine,
Yeah.
then you will always see your partner, your mother, your daughter in that lens, even when it's getting sticky, and you'll always still be able to respect her, right? And that's the important part is you don't damage the relationship because you've got this deeper connection
Right.
to the impersonal part of her. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful wisdom. Thank you. And Abey Raj, how do you manage your sexual energy in a productive way?
Well, I would say, to be super candid, I try to make sure that I only have sexual encounters with my wife, like no solo sexual encounters for the most part. And I would say 99% of the time that's true. So, because there's tremendous benefit to it. I'm being selfish in saying that, in that when we are intimate together in our sexual relationship, it's super enhanced by being in her auric field. My own sexual experience is like supercharged when I'm with her, and she's aroused, and her experience is also very strong, and I benefit. I'm like in this kind of ocean of supercharged energy, and it's very enjoyable.
There you
So
go.
it's to me, it's one of those things. It's very of all the things that I've experienced in terms of the things that we're supposed to try to curtail was the yamas and niyamas. The things we're supposed to try to stay contained with. Sexual energy is the hardest for me. I can anything else is I can be pretty disciplined at, but sexual energy is the hardest. So I don't want to make it like, oh, just it's hard. It's hard, and
Well,
I would say
that's why I'm asking you, and
yeah.
it's obviously hard for millions and millions of other men that are,
Yeah.
in a way. This is kind of what I tried to do with this podcast, or at least one of the things is to, raise people out of that just, I guess that
Yeah.
carnal or the addictions,
Right.
or power over and under. Like, there's got to be a better way, right? So I was
I
wondering,
think some of it is flat out, discipline, like, or and maybe come up with a strategy, like when you start having thoughts like, oh, I'd like to have some sex now, my wife isn't available. I'm gonna give myself 15 minets to get over this, because it is kind of a wave of energy that comes through you, right? And if you can just let it come through you and go away, then you can just keep on with your day. So I'm real big on, like, if you don't use it, it atrophies and falls away. Like, at the same time, if you get too much into denial of that, the other thing, it'll come out sideways in some way. So you got to sort of know where your limit of discipline is, because coming out sideways can be just as negative as letting it sort of just go through and atrophy.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say in our experience, I feel like I'm more interested in sex than you are most of the time.
It might look that way on the surface.
He
But
likes
I think
it.
that's
He
part
likes
of-
it just fine.
Yeah.
Well, but I think it's part of his, like,
Yeah.
he's
It's
from
true.
a different yoga tradition than I am. And so our traditions don't quite align perfectly in how we think about or orient our own consciousness to sexuality. And so when we first married, he had a lot of asceticism overlays on sexuality that I didn't have. And so it was kind of a frustrating dynamic. But I think also I'm unaware of like this level of work he's doing to contain his sexuality. And so that's part of the dynamic too.
Yeah, I would say, Gwir's right. She showed more interest in sex and more often, and it took me some time to come around and get on board with that. And I think it's been a good thing, because I think as I mentioned before, is when I'm in her field and we're experiencing that, there's actually a huge benefit, and it's not as a depleting thing as it is just a solo activity, if you know what I mean. So I think that's that's an important aspect of it. So
And as you age, let us just say, vegan is the new Viagra.
yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, I mean we're taught in a way to stay potent, right? I mean that's something I remember from the Kundalini training from Taran Taran. He said, why do women love men, right? And it's like, and he's like, puts his fist up like this, and I was like, boners, and he's like, well, yeah, but potency.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's important to have that potency. You don't want to be like a little wimpy, frail, like dish rag. You want to have some, I don't know, mana, the cafe, some energy, some, something inside you that animates you and makes you, alive. So, seems like mantras really do that for you guys and your practices and your community and nature. And I mean, it seems like you're pretty well-rounded yogis, I would say.
Yeah,
We make
exercise,
right effort so far.
good diet. Yeah, all those
Beautiful.
things are important.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining on the Mantradad podcast. It's been an honor, a privilege.
Yeah.
I
It's fun
feel
being with you.
I feel so connected to you guys. And thank you so much for your teachings, your wisdom, your expressions of divinity, and for doing the work to calm your minds, to be more accepting partners, and continue to bring joy to yourselves and to this world.
Maybe we'll see you in Hawaii sometime.
Or maybe me in New Hampshire.
That's right. His parents only live like 45 minutes
Oh,
away.
come on, come anytime. Please, guys.
Yeah, if I visit them, I'm definitely going to come up and see you guys for sure.
Right.
That's great.
Excellent. Well, so what do we say now? Now that do we still say Sat Nam? Do we Aloha?
Aloha is great, and good luck with your album
Thank you.
and your burgeoning family, your growing family.
Do you guys still sing Long Time Sunshine?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do that
Long Time
real
Sun.
quick? Or
Yeah.
I can
love
never
it.
get enough music. Sorry. I'm all about it.
So we'll just sign off with this. It's been a joy to be with you. May the long time sun shine upon you. Aloha surround you. And the pure light within
Aloha.
Aloha.
Right on.